Good evening, everyone. This is Michael Kuenlen. I'm your instructor for the spring semester 2019 U.S. History course, and we're covering the second section of U.S. History 2. I'm going to go over the syllabus with you a little bit so that we can skip these kinds of formalities when we're in class, so you can look back at this if you need any information about what is contained in our syllabus. So we're meeting 6:30 to 7:45 in room 110 in the Correll Center. That doesn't give us a whole lot of time, so we're going to have to focus a lot more on what we do in class so that you can focus on what you do out of class. When you're going to email me, if you would use D2L, that would work a lot better so that I don't have to jump between school email and D2L email. So you can use the function inside of D2L to email me. That would help. If you need to speak with me personally, I'm not a full-time professor. You may have noticed I don't have a doctor or a PhD before or after my name, so I do not have a technical office. We do have an office up in one of our buildings where I sit. Sometimes I get there a little bit early, but for the most part, I will show up to class about half an hour before, and you can come meet me there and we can speak. If you have other needs, if that time doesn't work for you, just send me a message and we can set up a time that works best for you. Our class runs, since it's the second section, our class runs from the end of the Civil War, roughly 1865, up to very close to the present. We'll kind of get into the 90s, and I'll talk about this more in class, but one reason we don't talk about modern history and current events is because you need a little bit of time from when people are gone to begin processing the perspective and considering that a lot of the people who were making history in the 90s are still around. We don't have that perspective yet. The kinds of things that we're going to focus on is analysis rather than just rote memorization, right? So you'll write, you'll think, you'll analyze, you'll break down, then you'll reconstruct. So we're going to spend a good deal of time looking at the difference between primary and secondary documents. We'll go over them immediately in our first class. And you'll look at them each class, and then we'll break them apart, try to understand what they tell us about specific historical periods, and then how we can use those, or other historians use those, to build arguments and then convince people as to what happened in the past. And so all of these outcomes we will be completing as we go through this course. Our text is the America, a Narrative History text, just the volume 2. You don't need the entire volume, you just need the post-Civil War volume. If you end up purchasing a used copy, which is quite all right, you do still have to buy access to the online component because, and I'll talk about this more in class, we're going to utilize their online quizzes. The really nice thing about their online quizzes, if you've never used them before, is that you're guaranteed a 100 on every quiz as long as you take the quiz long enough. So by us paying for that access, that gives you a 100 for part of your course grade. It's a wonderful feature. We'll talk about that more. Everything that we turn in will be turned in online on D2L, and I'll set up drop boxes for that, and there will be alerts for that, and there will be specific windows where you have the opportunity, usually the entire week. So we'll meet on Thursdays. So then your assignments will start, Friday or Saturday, and then you'll have the entire time to turn them in until Thursday. Again, you can contact me via my D2L email. Please, when you contact me, try to be more formal. I know that we are all used to texting, and that doesn't look very great when we send each other messages. So a little formality goes a long way. If you're having any trouble with your internet access or your computer, a lot of that falls on you because this is an online class. So if you have any problems, here are the support systems that you can use. eLearning at ccga.edu, and then over here for D2L help, or you can call and get technical support there. What you really are probably concerned with is, what do I have to do in this course? We'll spend more time in class talking about this, but we will turn in an assignment every class period. So once a week, I'll give you a primary source to analyze, and I'll put up questions on your news feed, and then you'll submit the answer It'll be a one-page answer every time where you'll analyze the primary document and some of the other things you've been reading, and then you'll answer the questions in response to what we've read in that chapter, but also some modern thoughts so that we could connect history to the present. There will be quizzes on D2L. Again, all you have to do is do them until you get 100, and you can keep a 100 for this entire grade. We'll submit 2 papers where they will require research, but also an answer to a question where we'll kind of broach the gap between history and the present. So I'll ask you a question about the past, but it will relate to the present. So we'll kind of keep current events in our framework. We will have 1 exam. Your midterm will be an in-class exam. It is the only test or exam that you will have. So there will be no final exam. It does say final here, but that will be a piece of research that you turn in. So you only have to come and take 1 big exam. That's the midterm. There will be no final. You will just turn in something when it is time for us to have our final exam. When it comes to doing your research, we are in college. We are not in high school. Encyclopedias, things like Wikipedia, Ask, Answers, Yahoo, things that I shouldn't have to mention, I see consistently they are unacceptable to use. Please do not bring them into the classroom. Please do not use them as resources. They have to be rejected. We'll talk more about good research, but edu or .gov are probably much better in academic than anything.com. If it says .com, that means it's a commercial site. It's trying to sell you something, not really trying to educate you. Here's your breakdown. I tried to make things generally even, so your weekly stuff, which is a reaction and a quiz, are 25 together. Your 2 papers are 25 together, averaged out. Your midterm is 25. Your final is 25. So they're all fairly even to kind of balance the grades if you're better at one or better at the other. Standard breakdown of how your grades scale out. Policies. So we do not do makeup work here. You've got a good deal of time. You'll know exactly what is due ahead of time. So there's no reason for you to miss stuff and make it up. Your weekly assignments, should you miss one, do not count that much towards your final grade. Each one counts maybe 1 point towards your final grade. If you've got things coming up, please come and talk to me. That way we can schedule for you to have different times to turn things in. But if you come to me afterwards and say, oh, I forgot, I'm going to say that's unfortunate. I know we all have things that happen, extreme circumstances. I understand that. We will deal with those when they pop up. Please do not make up excuses or kill any grandmothers. Please come to class. The more you're here, the more you are learning, the better the overall relationship between you and I will be, and things will work out very well in that case. I always have the right to change the syllabus. That's not something I want to do, but I do have the right to do it. It's a contract between us. If ever anything happens, I will move things back. I will never move things forward. I don't think that's very fair. Your course evaluations always pop up at the end. They're online. They're very easy for you to do, and I'll point you towards them when that is the time. For the college, they have a series of policies that come from the handbook. Briefly, the one that they focus on, and I always have to focus on, is academic honesty. You have to turn things that are your own work. Keep in mind the most common form of plagiarism is copying and pasting from online sources without citing, not necessarily stealing, but an improper citation. I've given you a link here, plagiarism.org, that is a very modern site that will show you the forms of plagiarism in the modern world. Most people don't know they're plagiarizing when they are plagiarizing. Remember, that's on you not to plagiarize, right? So if you do it and I catch you, we have an escalating scale and it's not very pretty. Usually you get a 0 and then after several times we have to bring it up. Someone will always plagiarize every semester, and it's always somebody who says, it's not going to be me. If ever you think you're having a problem, please contact me. We'll deal with it before it becomes an issue. I expect everybody would conduct themselves appropriately in class. We'll talk often. I have no problem with anyone bringing different views in. I will typically act as the moderator, or I'll try to stimulate conversation, but I'm sure we're all going to conduct ourselves professionally while we're here. Electronics are everywhere. Everyone's got one. We understand that. If it's distracting me, it's a problem. Consider that when you consider electronic devices. College withdrawal, you can do that within a specific period. If you have disabilities, the college has accessibility policies and we can accommodate you. Please don't dip in class or try to smoke in class. Please don't bring your children to class. Please don't bring weapons to class. Lastly, your schedule of classes is here. It'll point you to what we're going to talk about, the chapter that's going to be covered, and any major pieces of your grade that are due will be listed. So you'll have a paper here. You'll get your papers back. We'll have a couple weeks spring break, then a midterm. Get your midterms back. We'll announce a paper. You'll have a couple weeks. You'll have your paper. It'll be due. You'll get it back. And we'll be working on our final paper, which will come due the day of our final. I hope this has helped you gain a general understanding. We'll talk more about the very specific components, can't get that word out, and of the class in class Thursday, and I'll answer any questions that you have. Look forward to seeing you